Happy 4th of July weekend. I hope that this video finds you and your family doing well, enjoying summer, and staying safe. Once again, I want to thank you for your amazing efforts this past spring. We accomplished something amazing together. In fact, I want to share with you a short video of the Lincoln family, who has a YouTube channel, and what they said about our amazing efforts.
Online. 100% online, just like at the end of the school year.
And
we just
let's
continue
be
to do it
honest,
here in the
if
house.
our kids' education is dependent upon us,
Oh, we're in big trouble,
they're
guys.
in trouble.
We're in big trouble.
Not us. We're not in trouble. They're in trouble.
I will say though that their school did a phenomenal job of maximizing the learning experience.
Really though,
distance
I
learning.
was blown away. A lot of different schools in the area. Of all of the schools that I've heard from, and I'm probably biased, I feel like our school did above
Oh,
and
they did
beyond.
the best. They're the best school in the world, easily.
You
In
said
fact,
it.
I think they're ranked #1 in the world just recently in a Bingham Poll 101.
I
But
totally agree. What you did was amazing, and we are the best school in the entire world, according to that poll. As an administrative team, we spent the last week reviewing the state guidelines and considering what is best for Lincoln Academy for the next school year. We wanted to share with you the process that we have gone through, some information from surveys that we have obtained, information that has been shared with us from the state, and an outline of what school would look like under 3 identified possible plans. We do this because we want your informed input next Tuesday on which plan we should submit to the board for recommendation going forward. We also want to know what we have missed, what you are curious about, and what questions you may have based upon the plan we've outlined. We feel that going through this process will help strengthen and improve our plan together. To begin, we established 4 main guiding priorities for each instructional model based on survey data and the state guidelines that were shared with us. Our priorities for the school are: 1, to ensure the physical and emotional well-being of staff; 2, ensure the physical and emotional well-being of students; 3, ensure the ability to continue to offer in-school instruction throughout the year, or in other words, do everything we can to stay away from having to go online; and then 4, maintain educational quality as we have in the past. We want you to know a little bit about the survey as well. We wanted to share some of those results. If we look at first, we'll look at our parent survey together. They were asked the question about masks, which is a popular and controversial topic. As you can see, the majority of our parents felt that masks should be encouraged, but not required. As you look at how they would support a face-to-face model where all students are required to wear masks, the majority of them would, but however, there's still about 150 who would not. If we did a face-to-face model where masks are optional, a lot would support that. If we implemented a blended learning model, this is their level of support. If Lincoln implemented an online distance education model, we can tell that most families do not want this model. As I go through this information today as well, if there's any point, please feel free to pause this and be able to look at this information. I'm going to go as fast as I can in the interest of time, but we want you to be able to have the time to really look at some of these questions. Please feel free to push pause and evaluate what these are saying. As we look at the teacher and TA and staff model, how we feel about masks was somewhat similar to the parents. As far as a face-to-face model, a majority of us felt safe as long as masks were required by students. As far as a face-to-face model where masks are optional, the less people felt safe under that model. If we look at a blended learning model, by far the majority of the staff and surveys and who responded to this survey felt like that would be safe and they would support that. And then finally, we would feel comfortable offering a distance model from home in that way. Next, we want to provide some guidelines from what the state shared with us. And so Sydney Dixon outlined earlier this week on what we need to do and things we need to consider. Things she talked about were making sure that we can mitigate the risk. There's no way to eliminate the risk, but there are certain things we can mitigate the risk and make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure that the risk of COVID-19 is not impacting our students, but still providing high quality education. They went into further information, shared with us a little bit more about how the virus is being shared, how it is, what it's looking like in the state of Utah, and things that are happening. Some things that as we went through as an administrative team, some things that we felt were good to point out is that people are contagious, 2.5 days before and up to 7 to 9 days after symptoms. As they went through this process, they really indicated that the majority of cases that are spread come through respiratory droplets, not from formal touches. but that most of the cases are being spread through respiratory droplets. They talked about what we can do to help isolate that and how we can reduce spread. I can let you review that if you can push pause if you'd like, as well as some levers to mitigate risk and ways that you can do that. What we want to spend a majority of our time is looking at, they also talked about how it affects children and how it's a little bit less frequent than adults. And then as well as what some of those results are as far as in the state of Utah. However, as we talk as administrative team, we realize that although the results to children are somewhat minimal, our number one priority is to ensure the physical and emotional well-being of staff. We have to have staff to run a school. We have to have staff to have high quality education. We need you here to help students. So we feel like measures need to be put in place to keep you safe. 7 things they talk about. There are 7 things that we can do to help mitigate that risk. Let's talk about each one of these for just a moment. One is situational characteristic of movement. Movement in a school and in a classroom that's directed, there's lower risk if you're putting plans in place that will direct movement. Undirected movement or a lack of planning in a classroom or in a school increases the risk for movement. If students are around each other for more than 15 minutes, the risk is much higher. If it's less than 15 minutes, the risk is lower. You'll see how we adjusted some of our typical plans based upon that guidelines. Additionally, how close students are. We've all heard that 6 feet limit. Some of us have seen the pictures of students in China with balloons on their heads that are 6 feet apart. But most of our plans will talk about trying to maintain 6 feet of distance where possible. Another situation is to reduce the amount of people that are in a building or in an area. That will help mitigate the risk. Something else is to make sure that respiratory output is not increased. And so making sure that students, or when students are participating in in situations where the respiratory output increases, to make sure that we're monitoring that and have guidelines in place, but to limit those opportunities where possible. Additionally, high touch areas, there's a higher risk when there's high touch areas or common areas that are being used by students. So if, for example, if students were assigned multiple keyboards, or if they were all going to the same specialty class, or if they're all going to the same area and there's no sanitation taking place, that increases risk. Additionally, congestion areas can increase risk. That's why you talk about movement and trying to provide guidance for movement and eliminating high congestion risks. And some of that involves altering schedules and talking about when people come and where they don't. Also, the final information they gave us talked about how in considering each situation, you need to consider all of these elements and see if there's ways that you can get areas that are possible to be able to have minimal risk. And so to consider movement, duration, proximity, group size, respiratory output, touch, and congestion. And if you can modify areas to make sure that you're at lower risk, then as a school, you're going to help protect yourself, protect your staff, protect your students. Also, in your email is a link to that full presentation. It's about 30 minutes. You can log on, you can look at that presentation and be able to see what they said and be able to analyze some of that for your own and find further information that way. We took this information, the background information we obtained through surveys, the information we were given from the state, and we outlined 3 educational models that we feel that could be possible here at Lincoln. One of a face-to-face model, one of a blended model, and 3 as a strictly online model. Finally, we took all this information and we tried to create basically an idea of what each model would look like here at the school. We are sharing this spreadsheet with you. And so you can see we identified what a face-to-face primary model would look like, what that'd be for students that are attending on campus. We want to make sure we offer an online option for students who don't feel safe attending, what that would look like with a face-to-face model, what that would look like with an on-campus model. We went through and we talked about what does attendance look like? What do elementary classrooms look like? What are the elementary teacher expectations, elementary TA expectations, elementary transitions, elementary schedule, junior high classrooms, and so forth. We went on and on, trying to identify which of these models, what they would look like at school, so we could evaluate really what's best for our Lincoln Academy community. And so we're sharing this document with you. If you'll please review this and identify any questions you may have, and we're sure that we missed something. because it's somewhat of a monumental task to be able to go through that process. But we've shared all this information with you, and when we're giving you access to this document, because we want you to walk through this information, we want you to evaluate it for yourself. We want your input. In this email, there is information on how to join us for a meeting next Tuesday. We want you to be able to join us for about an hour and be able to share your concerns, your questions, what you're curious about. Help us make this plan better. You know, what we really feel like that what we're doing is somewhat of an impossible task. We're in uncharted territory. We realize that many people have varying opinions about what we should do, and that very few of those opinions match what reality is going to be. However, if we all work together, if we share ideas and we share our concerns and we talk about it, we feel that we can make this plan even better together as a team. We value you as an essential member of our Lincoln Academy team, and we're appreciative of the input that you'll provide and the time that you'll take looking into these matters and sharing your concerns with us. Thanks for your time. We hope you have a great weekend. Hopefully this information is helpful to you, and we look forward to talking to you next Tuesday.